Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is February 2nd. What is February 2nd, you may say? It's Groundhog Day. What is February 2nd, you may say? It's Groundhog Day. See what I did there? Everybody got a little Bill Murray. Okay, let's talk about our agenda for the day. Latest updates on the community. We're going to talk through with everybody. We're going to see PnP .NET library updates, PowerShell, latest on Teams, Microsoft Teams Toolkit, Microsoft Graph Toolkit, Publisher Connectors, and a plethora of samples. Microsoft Teams samples, script samples, Power Platform samples. You want samples? We got samples for you. Then everybody's favorite time, picture time with Together Mode. Then our all-stars of the day, Sabbika Siddiq, is going to talk about turn that Power Apps app into a mobile app. Excited for that. And we're going to have our favorite horse whisperer, Chris Kent, showing us some list formatting magic. Now, let's talk about your opportunity to participate in the community, because this is your community. We want you to absolutely be part of this community. You can do that by presenting on a call just like this. You're going to see our amazing presenters today doing amazing stuff, and you may say, I got amazing stuff to show. We welcome you to do that. We made it easy on you. Yeah, in fact, you can fill out a form, that AKA on the bottom there, which is also in the chat. Just fill that in. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll get you slotted in. This is your community, so we absolutely want to see what you have to share. You can also contribute on GitHub. And hey, once you do contribute on GitHub, that's a great way to show off on these calls, so it works hand in hand. Of course, you can also provide feedback. We want to hear what's working, what's not working, what you'd like to see more of. Just ask you to please keep it positive. Let's look at some of the resources that are available to you. Well, we consolidated some of our videos and YouTube accounts, so you're going to see less of those out there, easier for you to track. The Power Platform and M365 community videos, you can access those at ak.ms/community/videos. We've also got a number of open source projects and initiatives across PnP, SharePoint, Microsoft Graph, Power Platform. We've got sample galleries, as I mentioned, tons of samples that we're going to see talked about today, spanning Teams, SPFX, Power Platform, list formatting, as well as a number of other opportunities to engage. You only need to remember one URL to get involved. That is aka.ms/m365/community. We'll give you access to all of these things. Now, if you like calls, we know you do because you're here. We've got calls aplenty for you. We've got the Microsoft 365 platform call. Now, this is a weekly call. It's Microsoft presenters only, so you're going to get it directly from the mothership. They are on Tuesday at 8 a.m. In fact, we'll take a look at what that agenda is going to be here in a moment for next week. We've also got the Microsoft Identity Platform, Office add-ins, the monthly Power Platform happening in 2 weeks, and then, of course, the two bi-weekly sibling calls, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development, which you are on now, as well as the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework, which will be 1 week from today, this same bat time, same bat channel. You can get the invites, and you should, all at ak.ms/community/calls. Now, I mentioned that platform call next Tuesday, 7th of February. Take advantage of this. This is going to be an amazing action-packed call. Ike Bass and Dan Wallin are going to talk about getting started with Azure Communication Services, Microsoft Graph, and Microsoft Teams. So that's a hat trick of goodness there. Our favorite Gary Trender is going to talk about turning text into images in Microsoft Teams using OpenAI and Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. And then Pranita is going to cover Power Pages Data Workspace is now solution aware. So we've got an action-packed call. You can get that invite from aka.ms/m365-dev-call. Don't miss those. Get them on your calendar for sure. Now, you may be thinking, as you hear all these things, how can I learn how to do more? I'm a little intimidated. I'm new to the community. I don't know where to get started. You say things like submitting samples and contributing with GitHub. How does that work? We have a program, Sharing is Caring. It is here for you. It is a program that provides hands-on guidance and a safe space opportunity. That means that we're not going to record any of those sessions. They are live. You're going to work with members of the team, members of Microsoft, other MVPs. We're going to show you how to do things like submit a pull request. You may say, what is a pull request? We'll teach you that too. We'll talk about how you can get more involved in samples, as well as presenting on these calls, writing better for the web. If you like to write content, you can do that too. We got you covered. We've got more and more sessions coming up, scheduled for February already and adding in March. Keep an eye on those, and we will absolutely help you do more in the community because it is your community. We want you to get involved. So check out ak.ms/sharingiscaring for more information and to sign up for those sessions that are coming up. Now, once you do actually contribute, we want to recognize you. And this is our community recognition program. This is a program that is created by the community for the community. It is powered by Credly, and it is absolutely free. In fact, you've been seeing all those badges flying all over LinkedIn, Twitter, shared in blogs and profiles, and we thank you all. It is our way of giving back to you. It is absolutely free. We've got new badges for this year that cover PowerShell and CLI and adaptive cards, list formatting. We've also got SPFX web parts, Teams samples, and SPF extensions coming in the next few days, so be excited for that. It is absolutely free. You just need to opt in once. You can do that at ak.ms/community/recognition, and we are excited to recognize you. So thank you again all. More to come on that in very exciting ways. Let's jump into some project-specific updates, and we'll start with PnP .NET libraries with Bert.
All right, thank you, David. Let's do a quick update on the .NET side. For PnP framework, the main thing that we are doing today is around centralizing logic to detect admin center URLs, and also better support for other cloud environments. So we have started a plan to make those libraries work with all cloud environments. So if you have a US government environment, it should work as well. Today there's still plenty of hard-coded places where we call graph.com, for example, which is not available then, etc. So we are fixing that in framework, and Core SDK already did that, so that's fine. But fixing PnP framework, and also then in PowerShell. So the aim is to have like a full support for any cloud using PnP PowerShell and the PnP components all together. So I think that's a big thing, and looking forward to finish that one. On the Core SDK side, a couple of smaller things. In the admin library, you can kind of get the site collections, you can iterate through site collections, but you also have an option to return the shared and private team channel sites. So if you have those team channels, those sites are not there by default, but we can return them now. And some improvements around mocking frameworks. There's people using that to do mocking on top of PnP Core SDK, and we need to do some nice improvements there. But that's also work in progress. And I think that's it for me. Gautam, let's go to PowerShell. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bert. Yep, we have a major announcement. So version 2.x of the PnP PowerShell is currently out. It is available as a nightly build. So please do go check it out. One of the major so things that we have done with the PnP PowerShell v2.0 is we have dropped support for PowerShell 5.1, and it will only start supporting 7.2 and later versions for that. So please do check it out. We also have a migration guide as well. So check out the links for that. It will help you out if you are migrating from PowerShell 5 to PowerShell 7.0. Besides that, we also improved the get PnP folder commandlet. We also improved the PnP navigation node, so it supports modern audience targeting thanks to the work that has been done by Bert in the PnP Core SDK. Besides that, we have improved managed identity support inside Connect PnP Online. So it turns out that Azure VMs also support managed identity, and that particular scenario was not covered in PnP PowerShell. So we did that. Also improved adding support for primary site collection administrators. So if you want to add like a primary owner of a site collection, you can add that using these two commands that are there on the screen. Also to improve overall generic performance, we have added support for HTTP2 as well. Feel free to let us know on the discussion forum or on the issue list what you think of the new PnP PowerShell. And over to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Gautam. And that is very, very cool. 4.8 million downloads and 140 commandlets executed per day. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So, okay, let's move on over to Yo Teams with Rick.
Cool. So Yo Teams, I think Stefan already mentioned that last time. We have a new preview version out for the build, core, the deploy, and then the generator. Downloads are back up again because we know around Christmas time, not everyone's coding like some of us. So what's next? We're going to do a release of a stable version, of course, once the preview is tested. So if you want to help out, just install the preview with the generator, and if there are any issues, let us know. Just raise a GitHub issue. And we also updated the docs. Thanks, big shout out to Stefan Bauer, who made us a new icon and a new backend for our GitHub page. And that's about it. I think it's up to John now with the toolkit.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Rick. And John Miller.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. Some recent highlights on the toolkit. The SDK, wow. So based on some feedback, it looks like we had some usage of some deprecated stuff in there. We finally got that fixed. So bot framework adapter is deprecated. Now we use cloud adapter for everything. So that fixes a ton of little gotcha bugs. So the SDK has been updated. We have a new Learn module that we published. So you can go and learn how to use Teams Toolkit. And there's, I think, just 5 paths or 5 modules in that path. So you can go through that. So there's a link there for that. And what's next? Same thing I've been kind of talking about the past maybe 2 or 3 times here is we're continuing our improvements on the app model for what our projects scaffold and make it easier to configure them for stuff you already have or whether it's infrastructure, app IDs, et cetera, and really get away from all the conventions that we've kind of baked into the toolkit and make it configuration based. And you'll also be able to start from a Teams app or an Office add-in. We'll have a dev preview of that, I think, next week. And then we'll be looking for feedback on that. And if you got anything else on your mind around Teams developer experience, maybe it's not just Teams Toolkit specific. Maybe it's just about Teams developer experience or M365 developer experience. I'd love to chat with you. So there's a link there to schedule some time with me. And just a reminder, Teams Toolkit is open source. But is it really? This is something we've been talking about as a team. And what can we do to make the open source of it better? How can we manage our community better and make the project friendlier to contribute to and to understand and understand the plans and what we're doing and design and develop in the open? And sometimes we get stuck in our own little secret minds. So we're working on improving that. So happy to have feedback about that too if you've noticed anything and want to share that with the team. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Great update. All right, let's talk about Microsoft Graph Toolkit. If you are interested in Microsoft Graph, but maybe it's been a little bit more complex than you'd like to bite off, MGT or Microsoft Graph Toolkit is a great way to dip your toes. They are components that are super easy for you to integrate into your existing solutions. You can even use existing solutions to start dipping in, such as the Content Query web parts that's available from the community. So there's a bunch of generic theming and capabilities. You can install 3.0 preview, so definitely do that. There's always opportunity to help fix bugs and improve features. You can do that by going to ak.ms/mgt/issues. So definitely check that out and reach out to Seb if you have any questions. He's always loving to get people more involved in the community.
Try our v3.0 preview. We're really getting close. We're looking at shipping an official preview with all the bells and whistle by the end of this month. So feedback is always super welcome before we ship it. So feel free to go on. I just added the link to the chat where to share your feedback.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Seb. All right. Let's talk about independent publisher connectors with Jocelyn.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? As always, we have some awesome updates in the world of connectors. We are now at 73 total amazing independent publishers, contributors from the community like you guys. We now have 229 independent publisher connectors, 5 more since the last time we spoke. The first 4 being from Amjad Ayub. In case some of you guys recognize that name, that is indeed our very own certification PM who goes and helps all of you guys with your pull requests and your certifications. Thank you so much for your connectors, Amjad. And as always, we have another one from Troy. We're now at 933 total connectors across the ecosystem, including verified publisher, independent publisher, and first party. This is 9 more since 2 weeks ago. And this is really awesome news because we had an internal goal to grow from 900 to 1,000 between January and the end of June, and we are already a third there in just 1 month. If we transition a little bit, let's talk about what's sexy right now. Nothing is sexier than OpenAI, and in case you guys did not know, we do have an independent publisher connector for that. Actually, stay tuned. There might be some content coming out with me in April that interviews the person who made the OpenAI connector. I remember a few slides back for our Teams Toolkit, I think John was talking about the Microsoft Learn module that he has. We actually just released a Microsoft Learn connector from an independent publisher as well. If you love connector content and are hoping for a whole hour of connector content, I host something called the Connector Labs call once a month, where it's a whole hour. You get to hear from me. You get to hear from another internal Microsoftie about some other content, as well as an independent publisher demo. This week, next Wednesday, you guys will be able to hear from the person who made the Learn connector. So please use that QR code and I'll drop a link if you want to sign up and learn more. Thank you guys as always for your contributions. Please feel free to check out our GitHub and reach out to me if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Jocelyn. All right. Let's turn it over to script samples with Mr. Paul Bullock.
Hey everybody, so Script Samples is a repository for where you can share your PowerShell scripts or Bash scripts with the community. We have also an awesome set of new contributions. So we've got 4 new PnP PowerShell contributions. So this is to run through them. So we get and compare documents hashed from different tenants by Valo and Vitus. How to ensure a role title in each people page web part is updated by Casper Larsen. We've got grant permissions for a given Active Directory application registration by Michał Rozumski. Export stream classic web parts, given that it's retiring next year, and pages that use them by Tetsuya Katoa. We've also got some new updated scenarios for the CLI for 365. So we've got retrieve message center announcements and post MS Teams channel by Nandeep Nashan, and a report where a team is used by Adam Warzak, which is super, super cool. So the sample gallery does support multiple different tools, such as the Microsoft Graph, PnP PowerShell, SPO Management Shell, and many, many more. And everything that gets published there also gets published to the Microsoft sample gallery to give you that extra exposure, which is super, super cool. We've also updated the contribution guidance to help you out if you're new to contributing, or if you still feel like it's not quite right or you need help, then please reach out to me via Twitter, GitHub, LinkedIn. My handle's pretty much the same on all of those. I'm happy to support you wherever you need. We do have some sample ideas in the repo. Oops, like shifting the image there, never mind. But you can go to that repository as well and get that. So super, super cool. So thank you for your help and contribution so far. And make sure that you opt in for your badge. So we have a Script Samples badge as well as part of the recognition program. Back over to you, David. And thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And great work, everybody. By the way, if you've got any utility scripts, this is one of the easiest ways to start contributing and get involved. And Paul will welcome you and give you a hand in getting that submitted. So don't hesitate to reach out. All right. How about some Microsoft Teams samples with Bob German?
Hey, everybody. We have a really cool sample this time, again, from Lee Ford. Now, if some of you have heard perhaps of DALL-E 2, which is actually widely thought to be an AI, but actually it's Parker, the porcupine, is actually making all these pictures. Anyway, Lee has built a ChatGPT DALL-E 2 message extension. So you could be typing a message, such as, for instance, did you know that the Alaska Zoo uses a porcupine instead of a groundhog on February 2? And you really need a picture to accompany that. Well, bang, you can get it and add it to your message just like that from using this message extension. So go to aka.ms/msgext-DALL-E. And Lee also created a ChatGPT bot, which was shown off at the last one of these meetings. So thanks again, Lee, and please submit your team samples at the URL on the screen.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. I think Porcupine Day has a certain ring to it. We need to bring that in and maybe a little something with Bill Murray. That'd be awesome. All right. Let's go over to Power Platforms samples with April Dunnam.
Thanks, David. So Power Platform samples, we have two new samples to highlight here. An app login sample from Sheth. So this is really cool. There's lots of common scenarios where you might want to have some kind of authentication screen built into your Power Apps applications to be able to make sure people can get to certain parts of your apps. So this demonstrates that pattern right here and how to add that into your applications. The other one that we have is a search movies application by Ariane. And what's cool about this one is it's actually using one of our independent publisher connectors for the IMDb connector. And it's showing you how you can use those independent publisher connectors and then also how you can do some searching with those connectors. So 2 great samples with patterns that you can use and countless different types of applications that you might be building in Power Apps. And I think, David, we have a Power Platform Contributors Sharing is Caring session coming up to help those get started February 23rd. Is that right?
We do, absolutely. So definitely get signed up there. And we look forward to assisting everybody. Thank you, April. All right. Well, what time is it? It is, of course, picture time. So we'll hand it over to Vesa. He's going to take over, but definitely turn those cameras on so that we can show everybody in the community your fantastic faces. I see Seb is gearing up. He's got his hands all. He's rubbing them together, getting ready to do his.
Give me one second. Okay, now we're in the right thing. Now we need to wait 3 more seconds. We will put the counter on and let's wave some hands. 50 seats in the room. Thank you, everybody, for once again joining on the call. really cool to have you on this calls. And please keep the feedback coming in the chat. We need to know what works and what doesn't. And excellent. I can see a lot of fancy faces and hands on the back as well. Thanks everybody for joining. Awesome. Let's get back on today's demos.
Awesome. Very good. Excellent. Thank you, Vesa, and everybody. Looking great. Okay. Well, it is time for our all-stars of the day. So we're going to begin with Sabbika on Turn That Power Apps app into a mobile app. So Sabbika, you are a presenter. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. You all are my Power Platform celebrities. I have learned a lot from you all and happy to contribute. Sabbika here. I am a solution specialist at AIS with experience in commercial and GCC tenants, and my education is in architecture and planning, but not the software kind. However, I found my calling here. I develop Microsoft 365 solutions with a focus on Power Platform. Outside of business and technology, I am a painter and a mural maker. So today I'm pleased to speak about this really cool feature of Power Platform called Wraps. The feature went GA last year in June. This allows us to package our Canvas apps as custom branded Android and iOS apps for native distribution to mobile users. So you don't have to anymore search for your apps in the generic Power Apps. So I did a capacity building exercise at AIS to demonstrate wrap capabilities. So that's a little agenda here for today's talk, going over the documentation, discussing benefits and what is needed to accomplish this project, followed by a short demo. Let's talk about the capabilities of this feature. So it can package together multiple Canvas apps in the same mobile app, and we can manage these apps with Microsoft Intune. It allows code signing for both iOS and Android. For both platforms, the steps to achieve are pretty much the same, with only a few differences. We'll take the iOS route for this demo, as most corporations use iPhones as mobile devices. It's the popular choice. And so depending on your business scenario, you can manage these apps with Microsoft Intune and distribute them through Microsoft App Center, Google Play Store, just like regular mobile apps to end users. So proceeding forward, to accomplish this project, you'll be working with Azure AD app registrations, and we'll be installing our wrap solution in our Power Platform environment. You need to have admin privileges to accomplish this step. We'll be having definitely our Power Platform solutions where our apps and other necessary things will live in, and we'll have the branding assets, like how will our app will look like and what will be the landing page or the splash screen and the whole 9 yards. And when the build is complete, we'll be using the Visual Studio App Center to store the builds of our mobile app. To keep it succinct and to the point, I'll not go into the details of this, but these are the high-level overviews of what components we'll be using. So the solution, when it will be installed, it will look like this. And we are going to create our own solution with our Canvas apps. And we are going to, then we'll have the available option wrap. And if you're packaging multiple apps, use the one with the landing screen and start populating the information. Let me go to my environment and I can show you that. Yeah, that was the plan. So these are the information that needs to be filled. I'm going to briefly go over all of it. The general will be we'll be selecting our platform. The iOS is going to create an IPA file. Android will be the APK package. We are going to get the bundle ID and the app ID from the Azure portal. I'm going to go over that. Then we are going to put the display options. It's going to be splash screen or whatever the customization. It will all go here. It does have some requirements that it needs to be something like some specific pixels. There are online tools to achieve that. And the third step would be the publishing details, like where our built apps package will live in. And we are going to do that. For that, we'll be needing the URL for the container in our App Center, Visual Studio App Center. And we are going to create an API token that's going to be populated here. And then there will be the build option. That's going to take some time, usually 1 hour and more. And the green signs tells it is successful. Otherwise, it just shows that what happened. So first step would be registering our soon-to-be mobile app in the Azure portal to allow it to connect to our company's resources. Under Essentials, app registrations, I've already done that because this is quite a long process. We are going to get the application ID just like the regular registration we do. And then we are going to generate the bundle ID. That is, what is bundle ID? So it's a unique identity of the output mobile app, and it follows a reverse domain pattern. For example, there's com. On Microsoft that I used, and I'm going to select the tenant type. Right now, Microsoft only supports the multi-tenant account type, so we have to be mindful that we are choosing this one. And we are going to just choose our platform, and we are going to configure the bundle ID. Those two things are going to be filled over there. And while we are here, we are going to configure some API permissions too for our mobile app. We are going to add, I have added these API permissions. I have used Dynamic CRM, Azure API connections, Power App Service. It depends on your scenario that what data connections you are using. You can always add those. And if there are any missing API connections, they can be swiftly added, installed by running commands in the Azure Cloud Shell using the tenant ID. So these are the ones I used. Okay, so for this, we have actually, so we have got our information from for the general, all of it from the Azure portal, and now we are going to go towards the publishing details. For that, we need the URL. You have to log into the Visual Studio App Center, and if your organization doesn't have an app center, you can always sign up for one. And it's a storage location to store our builds of our mobile app. This is the container that I made, and it's a pretty easier steps. And here the app, when it's all built, it will look like this, and it will be here. And if you're going to go to the settings, we can generate the API tokens from here, and we have to give it full access when we are doing it. And some tips around it. You should always copy and keep it with you because it will be gone forever. And while building this, there should be separate containers for different operating systems. And if you delete your app from the App Center, this one is important, you lose all your data for the app permanently. So you have to be careful around that. And after transferring an app into an organization, you can transfer it back to your personal account. So container in the App Center stores the build outputs, and it differs depending on the target platform that you selected. It will create the IPA package for the iOS, and the Android, it will be the APK package. And so we are going to take the URL from, I think, till the app and the API token from here. And when the build is done, we are going to download it and take it to the other side for the second process. And next is allowing the registered app in your environment using PowerShell modules. For that, I have already run it already. It should be version 5.1 or below, remote signed, and we'll import the necessary modules just like we have the Power Apps administration, allowing Clobber to override warning messages about installation conflicts, about existing commands in your computer already. Then we are going to add the user account, and it's going to pop up the window, and you are going to do that. And we are going to allow our app in our environment, allowing the third-party app, and the status 200 is a good sign. And this step would be done too. Going back. So after all of this, we are going to start the build process and later download it from the App Center. The builds can take more than an hour, so account for that. So after the build package, it's going to be the second half is code signing process. So I'll quickly walk you through that. It is So we'll need two things for signing for iOS: a MacBook with Xcode installed, enrollment in Apple Developer Program. It's $99 per annum, and to distribute your apps within your organization, you need to sign up for Apple Enterprise Developer Program. It gives you the option to create an enterprise distribution certificate. And we'll be using needing the device UDIDs. And it's just for the development and testing purposes that it's producing our desired app or not. So now all the rest of the magic happens in the Apple Developer Portal. So we are going to sign on with the same account, and we'll be using. And one more good tip at this point is to sign on with the same account that you'll use for Xcode, because it can mess things up. The first thing would be creating an app ID. We are going to go to the app ID, and we are going to provide some basic description and bundle ID, and we are going to select capabilities, what we need our app to have. So it has a long list of capabilities here, like, for example, it has iCloud capability, associated domains, NFC tagging, push notifications. Then we are going to review and register the app over there. Second step in the Apple Developer Portal is creating a distribution certificate. And we are going to create a new certificate signing request. MacBook has the keychain access. We are going to use that to request a certificate. And then going back to the portal, we are going to create that request by uploading it and and we are going to download it. So keychain access it contains various types of data like passwords, private key certificates, and secure notes. So staying in the portal, we are going to register our devices. There's another tab where we can register our device. We just need the UDIDs. That's the unique identifier that you get from their hardware values. And then proceeding forward, we are going to generate an iOS provisioning profile. And we are going to add all the devices where the IP needs to be installed. And it's going to prompt, and there's going to be a whole process where we are going to be prompted, and we are going to fill the information. And at the very end, after selecting all the certificates and everything, the app profile will look something like this. And for production uses, there are going to be different, like App Store would be the distribution method and different. Right now, I have used ad hoc and for testing purposes. And later, we are going to download and unzip the file from the App Center. This will create a folder named after the bundle ID. I got it from my Visual Studio App Center, and I'm going to open it with the Xcode. And we'll go through the visit process for the distribution of the app. And at the very end, you'll get the required IPA file. Next, we are going to sideload the IPA package onto your device. It's just a simple step. You just plug in and drag your file over there, and it will start the installation process. I did record some videos, but I don't think we'll have so much time for that. So the app icon on the phone will be there to greet you, sign in, opt in out of for the notification, just like regular apps. Now you can easily access your app from the device without having to search in the generic Power App. I hope everyone will have fun working with it as much as I had. And some parting notes. This feature is not yet available in GCC or high tenants, the last time I checked, and RAP only supports multi-tenant account types, just like I stated earlier, and published changes to the included Canvas apps are downloaded automatically. However, it is recommended that you rewrap and redistribute your mobile app on a monthly basis to benefit from the frequent platform bug fixes, updates, and new features. And if you're making any bigger changes like updating icons, colors, and adding or removing some Canvas apps in your mobile app, that will require you to rewrap or redistribute your mobile package. These are some helpful links. I wrote a blog on most of the things we discussed today, and you can find it on the AIS blog website. And questions are welcome. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Back to you, David.
Yeah, awesome. So because it's super, super powerful functionality here to be able to share all of that. So thank you for walking us through that. We look forward and hope everybody's able to take advantage of that. Links are in the chat, some questions, and we'll have more opportunities here as we wrap the call for others to get involved in collaborating with you. Well, what is that we hear in the distance? The hoofs of the horses. So the Sultan of Stallions, the Monarch of Mares, the Emperor of Equestrians. Chris Kent, it is time for some list formatting magic.
I mean, it just sounded like you were eating chips to me, but sure, it's horses, right?
You know, I'm like the guy in Spaceballs. I just do all that. These are all completely natural sounds.
Natural, yes. All right, let me share the screen. Let's look at some stuff. How does that sound? Exciting? Yes, indeed. All right, everybody see me?
Got it.
Woo! That's me. I'm Chris. All right, let's talk about some stuff. So Bob mentioned the Dolly 2 stuff. Well, guess what? I also have been looking at those fun images myself using the new Microsoft Designer. It's very exciting. But the whole point I wanted to talk about here is I was talking to David the other day. You know, he made a silly joke because we were talking about a show we liked, and you know, so I mentioned it to the Warrior Horses, and the Warrior Horses, you know, they love to do Netflix and nay. And they've had a great time with it, but unfortunately, you know, they're sharing their passwords across the entire, you know, battalion. And with the new crackdowns, they're looking for a new streaming service. So they've been taking a look, and I got to tell you, they've really gotten into HBO. So a little surprising, and I don't know exactly how such they can separate fiction from nonfiction. But hey, I don't judge. I'm the one talking about Warrior Horses on a Microsoft call, right? But when they got into it, they started to get some ideas. So they created a new site, and let's go take a look at that. So we come over to their classic Warrior Horses site that we've all got. And now they have a whole new one here. So they've created a site called the Boston QZ. Right, so they're working here in this quarantine zone, and they're using this for training, I hope. Right, so they've got some information on here about how to train and new episodes that are coming out. And as part of this, they're trying to, you know, collect information about their quarantine zone. And part of that is they need to know who of their warrior horses is there. So we want to create a list to handle some of that. So let's go ahead and create a new list. And since it is the people from the QZ, why don't we just call this the of us list? Sounds great. So we'll just call that of us. We'll create that with no spaces so that the URL doesn't have any spaces. We can click here and we have our list of us. There we go. Hilarious. All right, we'll save that. And now let's add a couple of columns to it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this title column to their name. Correct? It's the name of the warrior horses there. And let's add a number column. And we're just going to make this like their power level. That sounds exciting. We'll make this a percentage. Sounds good. And of course, that is required because that sounds good. All right, so now we've got a power column. And let's add one more here. Let's do a... Now, if we wanted to list, you know, multiple items, right? So let's say, in this case, we want to list out their special skills or their abilities, right? We want to kind of quantify that. And if we just have a standard list of those, well, then a choice field is the right way to go for that, right? So we can do a multi-choice field and we can pick all their skills out of there. But what if you've got more information about each individual skill or ability, right? In this case, we happen to have a whole other list here called special skills. And if we look at our special skills list, right, we've got a list of skills that each horse could have. And actually, you know what? Here's a sub tip, a little bonus tip for free. We're gonna make this a little easier to see. You know, we can do this kind of thing, and that's all right, but then we still have this header up here. Did you know there are query strings? You can type a little question mark and then type in env equals, and I can say embedded with a capital E. And when I do that, hey, I lose that the whole thing up there. That's pretty cool. Now, one thing to note is that if you have hub site navigation, that's still going to show up. But if we type in web view with a capital W and a capital V, we hit that, it's going to look the exact same, except your hub site navigation is going to go away. And there's even another one, which is web view list, where we had a capital L for the list, and we hit that, and ooh, it looks like Microsoft List now. We got that purple, pink, whatever, and your icon and stuff showing up there. So those are just a couple of helpful query strings. We'll go over those again a little bit, but just for handiness, we'll go web view here just so we can see this a little easier without all that extra junk on there. But the idea is we have this list, right? And the reason we've done this is because we've got multiple columns we want to associate with each individual skill, right? So we want to know their weakness, you know, their base power level, right? So this is a power level 3 for their laser eyes and so on. And we've got this cool little icon, and that's really fanciness, right? And we want to use that over here, All right, so let's go ahead and do this. And we're going to scroll down. And to do that, we're going to do a lookup. We hit next, and we're going to call this skills. And we're going to say from our source special skills is our list. Right, and we'll pick for the title column. And that sounds good. The only thing we're going to do here is we're going to come down and we're going to say allow multiple selections. This becomes a multi-lookup field. And we save that. Now let's enter a few of these guys just so we can have something to look at. Right, so we're going to say, I don't know, what's a good horse name? Joel the horse. I just randomly made that up. All right, so Joel the horse has a power level of, let's say he's got 90%, very powerful. All right, and his skills are, we'll just pick at random. There you go, he's very skilled. All right, and we'll add another one, say Ellie the horse. Again, randomly picked, and we'll put 50% power for her. And again, we'll give them some random ones. Yeah, talking to fish, of course, an essential skill. All right, let's just add one more just for fun, and we'll call it Ed. All right, just that makes me laugh. And we'll do a 10%, and this guy's got like 3 skills. Perfect. Okay, so there's our skills, and now we can exit the grid view. And what an ugly list, right? Well, why don't we make that a prettier list? Well, good news. The first thing I like to do is I almost never leave a percentage field alone, just because I like it to look prettier than that. And so one of the ways we can make that look prettier is we can head over here. So if we go up here to our list formatting kind of sample site, and I'm sure David has already posted the link in the chat, or he's about to. Right, and when you head here, we've got all our list of samples, and I've shown this a number of times, but groupings is the #1 way to go find what you're looking for. And if you go by column type, you scroll down here, we know we just added a number column, so let's look under number. Hey, we got a bunch of samples. And one I really like is this one by Tetsuya Kawahara. He's one of our top contributors here. He's contributed a ton of samples, and they're all beautiful. Right, look at these. Woo! Now for our case, right, as much as I like these, I'm just going to go with the standard theme ones. All right, so I'm just going to hit this number battery, Jason. And I hit this little copy button. Wonk. Oh, something went wrong. That's strange. All right, so we copied it, and we head back over here to our list, and we go to our power column settings. We're going to format this column, advanced mode, get rid of that junk, and then we're going to paste that, preview it. Ooh, now I got power level. That's a battery. Now that's fancy. All right, we're going to save that. That's cool. That's just for fun. We didn't need to do that, but wasn't that fun? Yes, it was. All right, so let's bring that over here. But the main thing we're interested in now is this multi-lookup, right? So by default, when you get this, kind of the standard is each one that you picked is shown, right? And it's linked to the individual item, right? We can click that guy, and it's going to open up and say grenade juggling, and here's those details about that, right? And that's cool. And if we wanted to edit that, right, we can apply formatting to this. So we go formatting, we're just going to go advanced mode, and we're going to type our own just to see what it looks like. And we're going to say, you know, it's an Elm type of div, whoop, div, and we're going to say our text content just to see what it looks like is at current field. So take whatever the value is and just show it there. Bonk. Oh gosh, object, 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 object. How helpful, right? So we can make that a little better. Right. In this case, we actually want to say, because the lookup value, there are 2 sub properties. There's lookup value, with a capital V, and there's also lookup ID with capital I. In our case, we want that value. Say lookup value, and there we go. Now we've got just that lookup value, but it's got this like semicolon and a space. That's not great. Let's do an expression. We can say equals, and what we'll do is, because this is an actually array of values, we're going to join that. All right, and we'll say a comma, and then what do we want to separate them by? We could say a comma and a space, and we'll close that. And if we preview that, that looks a little better, right? And if we wanted to do this something fancier, we could. But what if we wanted to do something like add a border around each of those, or even have them on their own line, just like Microsoft was doing, right, with individual links and so on? So those are actually individual elements rather than this just fancy text manipulation we're doing. Well, so one of the things I'm working on, I've just really started, so this is kind of the first, is providing formats that make the same as the standard so that you can begin working with it, right? Because this is harder to work with a blank canvas here. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in, and we'll get these published. But the idea here is, let's preview that. So now we've actually recreated the actual out-of-the-box kind of formatting. And we'll just take a really quick look at that. We've just got some fancy styles up here. This just makes it so it doesn't go all the way to the top. Collapse that, and then we have our children here, so we just have one child. And the way this works is we're using a for each. So a for each, the idea is when you create a format for a column, this acts as a template and gets referenced each row. So each row that it gets drawn, when it gets to that column, it pulls out that format and uses this as a template to generate your HTML, right? And that's cool. And it just gets applied here, then it gets applied here. And they're each applied separately, which is why you don't get that, be able to reference other lists or other list items. And then we can actually do a little template inside our template. Woo, templateception, right? And that's what this for each is. So when you say for each, you're saying this element right here is a template now. So what I want you to do is draw this, everything in here. I want you to render it each time we have an item, right? And we can actually read this. So for each item iterator in current field. So what we're really saying is this is our array, right? It's current field. So it's all those values we saw before right here. And then we're saying what you want to call each item while we're doing this. We can name this whatever we want. I usually use iterator just so I know what I'm looking at. Right? You can call this Fred if you wanted. Right? But the idea is for each one of those, that's the value. That's how I'm going to reference the value from now on. In fact, that's exactly what we're doing here with this text content. We reference it like it were any other column. And because we're in the template, it knows, oh, whatever one I'm on, yeah, that's the one. Just grab the lookup value. All right. And then we've done some silly stuff here. Oh, that's not right. Special skills. Unfortunately, with the lookups, we don't actually get their originating list, so we have to hard code that portion. But you can see we're hard coding just a portion of it here to that lookup ID. And when we do that, right, then we still get that, like, click on that and we can see, ooh, now we can see bulletproof. And that's very exciting, right? So we've recreated it, and then this is just some style stuff to make it match Microsoft styles. And then this MS link class, that's just all that's used for is that when you hover over it, it adds the underline. Ooh, okay. So that's pretty cool. But the idea is by looking at that, we can see this idea of a for each, and we can start to work with these things, right? So very cool. We're just going to leave that for now so we can take a look at this. Now, we did this specifically not because we wanted, just a single list of things. We actually wanted those extra fields, right? So if we were to edit this, the easiest way to do that is we just do these add additional columns, right? So if we wanted to see that weakness or that base power, right, we could save that. And you'll see those show up here. Probably have to refresh to see them. I don't know whether that's showing up. That's good. But that's one way to do it. And that does work. The problem is it gets scattered across here. And it doesn't look quite the way we want it to look, especially right now because apparently it's blank right now, which is interesting. Let's get rid of that. I don't know. Either way, that's not really our point. But what if you wanted to do something a little more compact? You wanted to put it all in the same thing, right? You want to do something cool with it. Maybe you want to do some manipulation. Well, good news. That's what we're going to show as quick as we possibly can here. So let's take away these additional columns, and we're going to save that. And one of the things we can do is a little trick. We can head over to the special skills, and we can say add column. I'm going to go down to the see all column types, hit next. That's going to take us to this classic guy, and we can pick calculated. Wait for that post back. There we go. And we're going to call this concatenated, because that's fancy. And what we're going to do is we're going to equal sign, and then for each information we want, all right, we're just going to bring that over. So I'm going to click on icon, and then I want to put an ampersand to say I want to just join it. And I'm going to put a character that I want between them. I'm going to use the pipe character because I think that is easier, right? So let's just do that, and then another ampersand, right? So basically icon, and then a pipe character. Let's copy that, so I have to type that each time. And we'll put the title, and we'll paste that ampersand. We'll put the weakness, and we'll paste that, and we'll say the base power. There we go. So what we've done is basically made a string that puts all this together. Single line of text sounds good. Hit OK. Did we do it? Yep. So now we've got this ugly thing, right? But it has all of the information that we want in one field. So we can come back over here, and if we go to our column settings, we edit. Now we say instead of the title, we can actually pick concatenated. And we hit save. Ooh, look how ugly. But that's good news, right? Now we have this idea that each individual item has all of the information. So what can we do with that? Well, good news, I'm going to tell you. All right, and I'm going to do it as quick as I possibly can. So let's do it. So the first thing we're going to do is let's get rid of all this junk. We don't need all this extra junk in here, do we? Nah, we don't need a link and everything, right? We just want this idea of for every one of these, let's just do a span, right? So we can just see the, let's do a div. I love divs. All right, so we just want to see the value output, and we preview that. All right, so now we just got the text. We've simplified things a little bit. And what we can do then is we can create a sub loop, which is interesting, right? So now instead of text content of this lookup value, let's replace that with children. All right, so we want to, for every one of these items, you know, we want to draw this div that has children in it. And this children is going to be a nested for each. All right, woo, for each. That's the one. All right, and we can hit OK. Iterator name and field name is OK, but that's not what we want this time, right? We actually want this to be, we want to take it as a field iterator. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to type in, just to make it clear, we're going to say field, not name, iterator. Again, iterator is just something, it's a convention I follow, you don't have to. And what we're going to do is we would reference the one item iterator, right? And we want to reference the lookup value, but that's not an array. So let's make an array, right? So we're going to split this guy, comma, and we know we did a pipe, right? So we'll put a pipe, we're going to split it by that pipe, and boom. And we'll say, just so we can see it, let's put our elm type as a div, and then we're going to say our text content is going to be the field iterator. All right, so we want the value of that. And just for, so we can see that we've got separate items here, let's put a style of border. Everyone does this for testing, right? 1 pixel solid red. Sounds exciting. And preview that. Ooh, look at that. So now, although it looks a mess, we can actually work with each individual field's value, and we can work with them across multiple things here. So we can start to do some really interesting things, right? And not only that, we can tell what position we're in using a nice thing called the loop index, right? So if I wanted to show you what that looks like, there is a function called loop index. And the way that works is you pass in the name as a string of the iterator. Why? I don't know, but that's what it is. Let's get rid of that extra guy. Let's preview that. And so the idea here is you can actually see it restarts at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Because we've got the 4 fields we're bringing in each time. Right now, well, we haven't set up anything to show the loop index of the item iterator, right? We could do that here as well. So if we said item iterator, all right, we can see that each one of these is grouped into those. This one has apparently 6 of them, right? So it starts at 0 and so on. So that's kind of cool. Now, obviously, don't do this. This is very strange. All right, so I'm going to grab, because for time, which I have none, I'm just going to grab this and paste that, boom, boom, and boom. So let's scroll this thing out so we can actually see it. So what we've done here is we've taken that to the extreme, and we've applied this. And again, this is a sample you can take a look at. I'm using that loop index to conditionally apply borders, right, or icons, and so on. And I've created a header, right, when it's only the first one. So I've created a little inline table showing everything I've got from the other guy, right, which is really neat. Now, here's the last thing I want to show very quickly is why you might also want to do this, even if it's a one-for-one matching. Right, so if I head over to my special skills, and I'm going to go, not all items, let's go, oh, because I've got the web view. Ah, bit me. All right, no web view. Aha, all right, now we come here and we go to list settings. I'm going to go to my old school settings, because I'm just going to go permissions for this list. All right, I'm going to stop inheriting permissions, bye. Right, so, oh, before I do that, I should illustrate something here, which is if I've got another user, I've got this user named Dan, right, he's logged in here. Let's refresh so we can see the last of us list and the list of us. Oh, I didn't mess it up. All right, so he could see everything here. We didn't save our format apparently. Let's save that format before we forget I was still saving. We'll come back to that. But the idea is he would be able to see this, right? But if I come in here and I say, I've got unique permissions and I say by visitors, which is where Dan is, right? He no longer has permissions to the special skills list. So now when I come back, and I don't know why that's not saving. We'll just refresh and we'll reapply. All right, so boom, boom, preview, yep, save. All right, now it's saved. So now if we go back to Dan, all right, so Dan had this view. Now in refresh, he sees nothing, right? He can't see those. He can see the rest of the list. He can't see those items. And if individual items themselves had permissions on them, he would only see the ones he's allowed to see. Now, this isn't a great experience here. So what we can do is we can come back to our guy, the other guy, right? And we can come here, column settings, format this column, and we're gonna go just down to the bottom, right? So we have this idea of children. We'll just add another child here. And we'll just say it's an elm type of div. Actually, let's just copy this because we're out of time. And we'll just paste it in. And what you'll see here is what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, if you don't have anything, show a big lock sign, right? So let's save that, and let's come over here. And now we can see that he says insufficient clearance, right? And the idea is you may even have a one-for-one, right? Maybe you've got budget items in a list that are only for certain people to edit, but you want to show them in an overall roll-up in your gallery view or something. Because lookups are security trimmed, you can take advantage of that here and build these kind of little tables, add all these extra columns, and so on. All right, so let's wrap it up and be done. So last thing here is just a note about those query strings. You can check those out. If you just type in SharePoint query strings, there's actually several of these, that are really helpful for modern pages and stuff like maintenance mode and all sorts of other things. So this is the equivalent of the is dialog we used to have in Classic, right? Just remove these things. One thing to note is they do not remove application customizers, which good or bad, you decide. And then here's those samples. So that's it. Woo! We did it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Really, really appreciate it. What was that, Mr. Ed? No, Mr. Ed. He doesn't love Joel and Ellie more because he gave him more skills. Don't worry. Chris, we're going to have a talk with Ed. All right. Let's wrap this up, everybody. Thank you to our amazing presenters today, Sabbika and Chris, for all that they have done. You may have questions that you want to ask them about this sample. It's natural because, there's questions to ask. Everybody wants to talk about that. So let's give you this opportunity. It's a new initiative we've been starting. It is Community Calls Conversations. We can continue this. This is dedicated conversation space that we are creating for our calls to help continue the conversation. For those that are on the call now, want to continue the conversation, maybe you're watching it later and you'd like to ask questions to Sabbika or Chris, we have that opportunity. So here are some URLs for you to take advantage of that. If you're watching later, we also will put them here in the chat for you that you can access. So don't hesitate to take advantage of that. But you can access those at ak.ms/feb2-demo1 and demo2. Operators are standing by to answer your questions. So definitely let's continue the conversations over there. Let's not let it stop. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Community YouTube channel. You can access all of our YouTube accounts, M365 Community and Power Platform at aka.ms/community/videos. Definitely subscribe to all of them. You'll be alerted of the most recent and latest videos. Do not try to download it from the chat. If you're not at Microsoft, it won't let you. It'll just end up in sadness and tears. And we want to make sure you get access to it as soon as possible in a happy way. So definitely go subscribe to those YouTube accounts, and we will let you know as soon as that information is available. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365 PnP. The next M365 General Dev call is February 16th, 2 weeks from today, 7 a.m. Pacific. Next VP Connections SharePoint Framework call is next week, February 9th, and we are going to have a guest host in Mr. Hugo Bernier, so we are excited for that. You can access all the community calls at ak.ms/community/calls. Thank you, everyone, for the amazing contributions and conversation, collaborations. You are all fantastic. Have a wonderful rest of your week and an awesome weekend.